Okay, so you definitely remember this thing from high school chemistry, right? And let's be honest, you probably haven't thought about it much since. But what if I told you the periodic table isn't just a chart of elements? What if it's actually a map of human history?
Yeah, for most of us, it's just this intimidating grid of letters and numbers. It feels like something for scientists, locked away in a lab, kind of academic, a little sterile even.
Well, today, we're going to flip that idea on its head. Let's forget the sterile chart for a minute and think of this thing as a treasure map. Because believe it or not, every single one of these little squares is a doorway into an absolutely incredible human story. Now, we're not going to visit every single spot on this map. We'd be here all day. But we are going to make a few key stops to uncover some of the wild human stories hidden behind all those symbols and atomic numbers. Our first stop takes us to a pretty intense region of the map, one where the elements hold the power of life and, well, death. And you're not going to believe where this story starts, with one of the founding fathers of the United States. Meet Dr. Benjamin Rush. He signed the Declaration of Independence and was seen as a total medical hero in his day. But his go-to treatment for, and I mean everything, from yellow fever to just a common cold, was a dose of mercury chloride. He even had a nickname for them, his thunderclappers. And get this, the drooling was seen as a sign that the cure was actually working. But the reality? It was horrifying. Patients' hair would fall out, their teeth would loosen and drop from their gums, and a lot of the time, they just died from mercury poisoning. It was often way deadlier than whatever they were sick with in the first place. Mercury isn't the only element with a dark side, though. For our next story, we're jumping ahead to 20th century Japan, where a totally different element caused a disease named after this painful, heartbreaking phrase, itai itai. It hurts, it hurts. That became the name for this horrible disease. And the cause? The element cadmium. A mining company was dumping it into a river, it got absorbed by the local rice crops, and for the people who ate that rice, it caused the most excruciating pain as their bones literally became brittle and started to break. So the stories of these elements aren't just about bad medicine. They are deeply, deeply tied to human conflict. We're now entering a darker region of our map, a place where elements have fueled greed, exploitation, and just devastating wars. You know, there is a hidden story of conflict probably sitting in your pocket right now. Your smartphone needs these tiny components made from the element tantalum. Well, over 60% of the world's supply comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And there, the profits from mining this mineral, known as coltan, have directly funded one of the deadliest wars since World War II. Speaking of World War II, the element tungsten, its other name is wolfram, was absolutely essential for making armor-piercing shells. And it turns out, Portugal's dictator Salazar controlled most of Europe's supply. So what did he do? He played both sides, selling it to the Allies and the Nazis. The price just exploded, going up 20 times over. And he only agreed to stop selling it to the Nazis after D-Day, when it was pretty clear who was going to win. Okay, so from these massive global conflicts, let's do the opposite. Let's zoom way in to a single, tiny little spot on our map. A place that has had an unbelievably huge impact on the periodic table itself. This whole story is about one place, Ytterby, a small coastal village in Sweden. It started as a pretty simple quarry, mining stuff to make porcelain, but pretty soon geologists started noticing some weirdly heavy and strange-looking rocks. Well, that one little quarry turned out to be an incredible scientific treasure chest. For some unique geological reason, it had this crazy high concentration of what we now call rare earth elements. So high, in fact, that an amazing 7 new elements were discovered from minerals mined in this one single spot. And as a tribute, and this is so cool, chemists put the village on the map forever. 4 elements are named directly after it: yttrium, ytterbium, terbium, and erbium. And then 3 more were named for the region and for the chemist who figured it all out, making Little Ytterby the most represented single place on the entire periodic table. How amazing is that? All right, so we've seen how elements can shape medicine and war. For our final stop, we're looking at an element that reveals this profound and actually pretty controversial link between basic chemistry and our very own consciousness. Back in 1930, Mahatma Gandhi led a 240-mile march to the sea. Why? To protest a British tax on salt, something so basic, so essential, that Indians could easily make for themselves. The simple act of making salt became this incredibly powerful symbol of independence. But after independence, this created a huge problem. See, on one hand, doctors knew that adding a tiny bit of iodine to salt could prevent millions of birth defects and severe health issues. But on the other hand, for many Indians, plain, natural salt was this powerful symbol of Gandhian tradition and self-reliance. To them, adding iodine felt like a Western, almost colonial thing to do. The philosopher Bertrand Russell used this very debate to make a mind-blowing point. He argued that our minds, our intelligence, our consciousness, it's not some separate magical thing. It is physically connected to our bodies. Something as simple as missing one single element, iodine, can fundamentally change who a person is. So as we zoom back out, the periodic table, it just looks different now, doesn't it? It's not just a chart anymore. It's a library of human stories. Each element is like a book on a shelf, telling a tale of our genius, our foolishness, our greed, and our never-ending quest for discovery. From the madness of mercury cures, to wars fought over a metal in our phones, to the quiet legacy of a tiny Swedish village, these elements are telling our story. Science isn't some sterile subject totally separate from our lives. No way. It is the story of us.